And welcome back to Barcelona's Catalunya circuit for the Spanish Grand Prix. Let's join Martin Brundle, fresh from piloting the King of Spain round the track and now working alongside our crown prince of Grand Prix commentators, Murray Walker.
Well, Jim, I'm waiting for the newly appointed Don Martino Brundella of Marbella to join me. He's on his way up from the grid now, and all credit to him and King Juan Carlos. King Juan for having the bravery to go round in the car, and Martin for resisting the pressure as well as he did. An enormous responsibility. Now, on to the race itself, which is going to be over 65 laps. And here is Martin joining us now. It's over 65 laps of this very demanding circuit, very abrasive surface, which is going to be very tough on tyres. Tyres and strategy are going to be all about this race, because as you've heard ad nauseam, but it's worth repeating, McLarens are on the hard compound tyres, and Ferrari, both of them, although Michael Schumacher wouldn't divulge it to Martin Brundle, are using the softer compound tyres. We could be seeing 2 and certainly maybe 3 pit stops from the Ferrari team this day. But the dramatic news is that just before the pit lane closed, both Michael Schumacher, who is starting from 4th on the grid, and Eddie Irvine, who's starting 2nd on the grid, came into the garages. They were wheeled in, and they had a last-minute adjustment made to the roll bar on the front of the car, which may be, Martin, what Michael was alluding to when he said they'd found something in the setup.
Yeah, but golden rule number 1 is never change anything between the warm-up and the race. And that, to me, suggests they're just not happy with the car after the warm-up. Because however hard you try going out of the pits to go to the grid, it's not like a full flying lap, and the car always feels slightly better than it is in reality. And as soon as you get underway in the race, suddenly those changes you made turn out, or can often turn out, to be the wrong move. But they've got a lot of data, a lot of feedback from the drivers, so I would expect them to have made relatively small changes, but we'll see if it works in their favour or not. But it does suggest to me they're not totally confident in their race setup. I'm not absolutely sure what Michael Schumacher's doing on the tyres. That's why I asked him and Eddie Irvine about the tyres. Eddie said, yep, they're both on the same tyres. Michael said to James Allen yesterday, there seems to be a lot of questions about my tyres. It's useful, there seems to be some misinformation. That's just what we wanted. And he put a lot of topspin on that. And I think there may be a reason why he's behind Eddie Irvine on the grid in that respect. But we'll wait and see. At the moment, the information is they are on the softer tyres, and that those softer tyres can wear down quite quickly, almost to slicks. In other words, the grooves disappear, and then they start performing rather well.
In which case, they have to be very careful, because if they get right down to a semi-slick, they're in danger of flouting one of the rules. The depths can be tested, and if they are not deep enough, they are judged not to have 4. Well, that hasn't happened yet, and let's hope it doesn't happen today. But if it's going to happen anywhere, it'll happen here. And incidentally, Ferrari have been very open up to this race and saying this is their worst circuit of the year, Barcelona. And the McLarens were expected to do much better on the grid in comparison to Ferrari than they did. Yes, Mika Häkkinen has taken his 5th successive pole position, and there he is sitting in position 1 on the grid. But Eddie Irvine was just a mere 1/10 of a second slower than him. David Coulthard in 3rd position on the grid, 0.15 seconds slower, and Michael Schumacher 0.19. So there's only 2/10 of a second covering the top 4 on the grid. On the cleaner side of the track, Eddie Irvine is not. He's on the right, and behind him is Michael Schumacher. So on the cleaner side of the track are Mika Häkkinen pole position, David Coulthard behind him, Jean Alesi on the soft Bridgestones, high up on the grid in 5th position, a superb drive in qualifying yesterday, and Jacques Villeneuve in the new BAR, 6th on the grid. He had some trouble in the warm-up this morning, but managed to recover well, and the car looks as though it's in pretty good shape for today's race.
Well, the average speed here is about 125 miles an hour. That puts it pretty much mid-pack as they leave the line to start their formation lap. In terms of average speed, it's about middle of the pack of the World's Grand Prix circuit. But it turns out to be the most physical track of the year, because there are 4 very, very fast right-hand corners. that rents your neck, and generally is a pretty frantic racetrack, 4.7 kilometres, and it's going to be a physical afternoon because the first 4 runners, I think, there's not a lot between them in terms of pace.
It's a track with a very, very fast finishing straight, up to 200 miles an hour almost on the way to turn 1. It's got a bit of gradient in it, it's got slow corners, it's got some very demanding long sweepers. Turn 3, for instance, is a 180-degree corner, which they enter at about 105 miles an hour, and exit on the approach to turn 4 at about 170 miles an hour. And then when you're coming down to La Caixa, which is turn 10, you're down to about 60 miles an hour. So there's a tremendous stress on the drivers. The track temperature at the present moment, incidentally, it's stabilised at about 36 degrees, which is nearly 10 degrees lower than it was yesterday. And that could well have an effect on strategy. The engineers will be looking at temperatures, will be studying tyre wear information as they thread their way round the 22 competitors, all 22 qualified well within the 107% of pole position time limitation yesterday. And that's Rubens Barrichello, as you see. He is 7th on the grid in the Stewart Ford. His teammate Johnny Herbert is down in 14th place, quite a way down below him. But I think, in a way, the thing that's going to matter most is whether Schumacher at the start can get ahead of Coulthard, even more importantly than whether Irvine can get ahead of Hakkinen.
Well, they've all been stopping at the end of the pit lane through free practice, just going over the speed limit line, stopping the car and doing practice getaways. And I'd say all 4 of them have looked pretty handy, and the secret is the minimum amount of wheel spin. But still, I thought the Ferrari looked marginally better with its traction, which even from stationary and even up to just 50, 100 kilometres an hour, 30, 40 miles an hour, the aerodynamics of the car start coming into play, and the Ferrari does seem to pull away rather well.
Well, both the McLaren drivers got it wrong at Monaco. They were both passed by their respective challengers in the Ferrari team. Let's wait and see. Mika Hakkinen in pole position. Behind him, Eddie Irvine, then David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, the 2 Ferraris in line astern, the 2 McLarens in line astern. 65 laps. Watch the lights as ever.
Coulthard is well forward in his box. I think he's just inside his start box. Over to you, Murray.
Lights out and go in Spain. Hakkinen gets away well. Irvine up behind him. David Coulthard is coming up. Jacques Villeneuve is trying to get round the outside of them. And David Coulthard is blocking off. Irvine is trying to go through, but Villeneuve is up into 3rd position. Both the Ferraris have been passed. It's a bad start for both the Ferraris, a superb start for both the McLarens.
2 cars left on the grid here. I think it's the Prost of Trulli and a Minardi of Genet. So it's Panis and Genet. They should clear those cars. I think they're pushing them the wrong way. The gap in the pit wall is behind them. They're pushing them forward.
Hold it, Martin. There's Irvine trying to get through on the inside of Schumacher, trying to get through on the inside of Villeneuve. He fails to do so, and you'll see that Michael Schumacher is now ahead of Eddie Irvine, who started in front of him.
Right, we've got a stationary car on the start line with its engine running, the Minardi of Genet, and Marshall's on the track. I don't know what they're going to do. There's not there you see the car now. It's overheated. Just switch it off and go for that gap in the wall. Otherwise, they're going to have to put the safety car out at least. And there, the 2 McLarens up front. Villeneuve in a superb 3rd place. And, well, the Ferraris didn't get away on the inside on the dirty line of the racetrack at all well, did they?
Terrible start for Ferrari, and meantime Mika Hakkinen is making the most of his advantage, and so is David Coulthard as they accelerate away. Mika Hakkinen leads at the end of lap 1. David Coulthard in 2nd position. Villeneuve is 3rd, and holding up the 2 Ferraris. It's an incredible performance by Jacques Villeneuve, especially as he had problems in the warm-up and had to go out in the spare car. And he was quickest, about 7th fastest in the warm-up, but this is a superb performance Mika Häkkinen, look at him. This is a golden opportunity for the Finn, and my goodness, he's exploiting it superbly.
Getting a bit out of shape there in turn 4, so Häkkinen pushing to try to get an early advantage. Fastest man on this lap so far, David Coulthard, but not a lot between the two McLaren runners, and they're significantly faster than Villeneuve and the two Ferraris behind them.
Well, I know that Ron Dennis, the boss of McLaren, was very unhappy with the McLaren performance in qualifying, notwithstanding the fact that they were starting first and third. These cars are definitely more slippery. Look at the lead they've got at the end of this, the second lap. And look at the way that Jacques Villeneuve is still staying ahead of Michael Schumacher. There is the BAR, there is the Ferrari. Eddie Irvine still in 5th position. Jack Trulli is 6th in the Prost ahead of Jean Alesi, who's down from 10th from 5th position. Jarno Trulli is chasing Jacques Villeneuve, chasing Michael Schumacher, chasing Eddie Irvine. He's 4.3 seconds behind the race leader, and now David Coulthard is starting to close the gap, but Mika Häkkinen is very, very much the fastest man on the track so far, obviously in the lead by 1.5 seconds.
That's some blue smoke coming out of the back of that BAR under braking into turn 1, but it's so difficult to follow another car around here as Michael Schumacher's finding out, because the dirty air coming off the back, but it's more relevant here because of those long, fast corners such as turn 3 they've just been through. Schumacher clearly has the faster car there, but he's not going to shake Villeneuve off the track too quickly. It just wrecks your front tyres. You've got less front grip, you're sliding around more. Worst case scenario here for Michael Schumacher. He needs to pass Villeneuve early.
2 previous winners, because Jacques Villeneuve won here in 1997. Jacques Villeneuve won here the 2 previous years, one of them for Ferrari, one of them for Benetton. But all the time you can see those McLarens. Now Schumacher is over 4.5 seconds behind Häkkinen, who's taking advantage of the clear track ahead of him. He's made the fastest lap in the race, and that is a time of 1 minute 25.8 compared with last year's fastest lap, 1:24.2.
Well, remember the World Championship finale in '97, Murray in Jerez, when Villeneuve made that bold move on Michael Schumacher to pass him. Schumacher ending up in the gravel trap and losing the championship. Villeneuve taking it. Plenty of needle in the pass between these two.
Yeah, and the gap has increased between Schumacher and Häkkinen as we watch a restart. Watch the replay now.
Yes, well, Schumacher's problem was Irvine had a bad start. Schumacher had a very good start, but got bottled up behind Eddie Irvine, and Coulthard moving to close the line early. And that meant Schumacher backing out of it and gave Villeneuve a clear run down his left-hand side of the track into that clear 3rd place.
And you saw the way that Jarno Trulli came up in the process there from 9th on the grid, and he's 6th in the race now. The young Italian who's very much showing the way to his more experienced French partner, Olivier Panis, in the Prost team. Here's the battle for 3rd, and the gap between Schumacher and Häkkinen has gone up from over 4 seconds to over 6 seconds. So Villeneuve is definitely holding up the Ferraris.
Another good starter was Johnny Herbert, moving from 14th up into 11th place, just 0.6 of a second behind Rubens Barrichello, his teammate.
Lap 4 out of 65, and it's Häkkinen, Coulthard, Villeneuve. Schumacher, Eddie Irvine in 5th position, Jarno Trulli 6th, Jean Alesi down to 7th from 5th on the grid. Ralf Schumacher is 8th in the Williams ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Rubens Barrichello. Damon Hill in 13th position. He's lost 2 places already compared with his 11th place on the grid.
Yes, Mika Häkkinen there, Murray, 1.4 seconds faster than Villeneuve and Schumacher in 3rd and 4th places. That's a country mile in Formula 1, and 4/10 faster than David Coulthard in 2nd place too, so Häkkinen really getting on with it.
Yeah, now a lot of people will now start to wonder about reliability for the McLarens. They've only had 3 finishes, 2 for Mika Häkkinen, 1 for David Coulthard in 8 starts so far this year. No one is denying the fact that it's the fastest car in Formula 1 in 1999. but it is a long way from being the most reliable of the top cars. That's Ferrari.
Well, we haven't seen it on a breakdown truck or a tow rope at any time this weekend. Coulthard having a suspension failure, of course, which they believe they've identified and fixed with no problems at all. Or they're not expecting any further problems on that. But they didn't have a great test last week, and there are still some concerns as we see that must be Wirtz going extremely wide in Kampser corner, and oh there, that'll make a mess of the underneath. Look at that.
Yeah, the Benettons have been performing very badly by their high standards here. Both drivers have been complaining about the fact that they can't get any grip out of their cars. So there is Häkkinen, a gap of 3 seconds to David Coulthard, who is at least 4 seconds ahead of the battle for third. Here it is, Villeneuve, Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, Jarno Trulli is still in that 6th place, and the man of the race so far for me is Jacques Villeneuve. He decided to leave the Williams team after those seasons he spent with them, during which he became world champion, in order to join the new BAR team and make an investment in his future financially and from a driving point of view. It is now starting to pay off.
Yes, well, the cream always comes to the top, as they say, and it really hasn't taken Villeneuve long to get up the sharp end at all.
No, this is the man, I say, who won here in 1997. Tremendously determined, gigantically talented. And Malcolm Osler, the man who designed that BAR car, and Craig Pollock, the man who's put the whole team together with enormous backing, will be feeling very happy at the moment. Off goes a tear-off from Jacques Villeneuve's visor, and Michael Schumacher continuing frustratedly to press. There is no doubt in my mind that if he can only get past the BAR, he can pull away from it, but that he cannot do.
I tend to think you're right, Murray, but one thing that's surprising me is that if he's slowing Schumacher up that much, why isn't Villeneuve all over the back of Schumacher? I'm not sure the Ferrari's working that well at this stage of the race.
Over the line they go, and Schumacher now on lap 7 out of 65 is a massive 11 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. Now, strategy will come into play in this race, no doubt. It's my guess, and it's no more than a guess, that McLaren may be on a one-stop strategy, probably 2. Ferrari could be on a 3-stop strategy, possibly 2 as well. If it's a 2-stop strategy, it's bad news for Michael Schumacher. Either way, it's bad news, because he needed on a 3-stop strategy, which theoretically is fastest of all, provided everything goes well, to have made a good start. He hasn't done so. He's still in 4th position. And Jacques Villeneuve continues to hold that 3rd position in the Mecachrome-powered BAR. Now, Mecachrome is the French company that's running the Renault-designed and built engines from Formula One. It's getting a bit long in the tooth. Patrick Head, who uses them in the Williams team, says it's some way from being the most powerful and the best engine in Formula One, although it's very well engineered. And that means that even more so that Jacques Villeneuve is driving a superb race. He's definitely got a lot less power than the Ferrari behind him.
Yes, it's called a Supertech these days, that engine, but there is a chance that Villeneuve, of course, could be running a little bit lighter. Every 10 kilos of fuel less they have around here is 0.35 of a second, 10 kilos being 13.5 litres. You can work that out into gallons if you want. But so therefore, it's quite a big fuel advantage here if you run your car a little bit lighter. We'll have to wait and see. I think Villeneuve's pace is questionable whether it's 2 or 3 stop, but nonetheless, it's certainly matching the Ferraris for now.
1:25.2 is the fastest lap we've had so far from Mika Häkkinen, who put up the fastest lap last year. Exactly 1 second slower than last year, and that is a terrific achievement on the 4-groove front tyres in comparison with the 3-groove front tyres last year. Less grip this year. The car, nevertheless, itself... Oh! Bit of a shaking of the head there from Mika Häkkinen's McLaren as he takes the left-hander. He's on his 8th lap out of 65. He's 3.5 seconds ahead of Coulthard. He's 12 seconds ahead of Villeneuve. He's 12.5 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Eddie Irvine is still 5th ahead of Jarno Trulli and Jean Alesi. And completing the top 10, Ralf Schumacher, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the top Jordan driver, Rubens Barrichello, the top Stewart driver, completes the top 10. And Barrichello is followed by his teammate Johnny Herbert. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Johnny is going to finish this race and that he won't be talking, which he's inevitably been doing time after time this season, to Louise Goodman as a retiree later on. Pedro Diniz is 12th in his car, and in 13th position, Damon Hill in the second, Jordan. There's the hero of Spain, Pedro de la Rosa. You saw him on the introduction to our programme, talking us round Barcelona. Well, he's driving himself round the Catalunya circuit now. 14th position, only one retirement so far. Sadly, it's Spain's Marc Genet, who failed even to take the start. 21 running, Olivier Panis is last in the Prost. He is already a full lap behind everybody else.
Well, if anything, look at Michael Schumacher drifting the back end of the car through there. It's not what he wants to do. He's not intending or trying to slide the car around. It's just the way the car's handling. It's not working well at all. And if anything, Villeneuve's pulling away slightly and looking like he's got a slightly better balanced package.
I didn't see in the Sturm und Drang, Martin, where Michael Schumacher got past Eddie Irvine, who started ahead of him.
Well, I think because Irvine had that poor start, even then Schumacher had a better run, finally, down into turn one. So I think it was all over by the first corner. But of course, Villeneuve had the pair of them, and there'd be a big smile on his face on that one, I would imagine. And the man, if he didn't have a crash helmet on, who'd be scratching his head, is Eddie Irvine. He's now 16 seconds off the lead and 1.1 seconds off the leader's pace.
Well, McLaren have done something overnight, because there is so much more performance in the car in comparison with the third runner, never mind the two Ferraris, than there was yesterday. Any views?
I think the McLaren generally does. I mean, Ferrari saying this is their worst track. I think what they really mean is this is acknowledged as being McLaren's best track. For whatever reason, their philosophy of their car suits this circuit very well, and it is a particular type of circuit. Ferrari have tended to struggle here a little bit, except for, I mean, Schumacher was stunning in the rain here and just made everybody look silly. And I think with that balance around here, you can't manhandle a car. If the car's just not working, there's long, fast corners, all you can do is drive them. You really can't drive around too many problems. And it seems that the McLaren boys have got less problems than the Ferrari guys. And they've got an added problem now of this man, Jacques Villeneuve, in front of them.
Lap 10. Now let's turn our mind to when they might be stopping. If, and I'm sure some of them will be, there are going to be 3 stop strategies. I think the earliest we can start expecting them is round about lap 16. That's in 6 laps' time, including the one that they're on now.
Well, up at the front, we've got a fairly typical situation happening here. Coulthard has now stabilised on Häkkönen's speed and now starts edging back towards him, and we've seen that in a lot of races. No doubt about it. Häkkinen has got the gift that Ayrton Senna used to have of getting away at the beginning of the race, having the confidence to push the car to the limit straight away and get an advantage. And Coulthard's got to find out how to do that better, because Häkkinen really is building himself a cushion very quickly.
Martin, this has happened time and time again, that Mika Häkkinen has got the drop on David in both qualifying and subsequently the race. I know you're very close to David, but I equally know that you'll be totally objective. Are they still in the same bracket?
Well, Coulthard's got to find something extra and make the difference up. Häkkinen is finding it. David is not finding it at the moment. He's close, but not close enough. And there's a little something extra in there he's got to pull out, and only he knows where it is. But, you know, Häkkinen is not an easy man. He was my teammate back in '94 at McLaren. I know very, very well how good Mika Häkkinen is. And he's not going to be an easy man to beat in this form, especially.
Mika Häkkinen goes into his 12th lap. We'll be back soon, but we're going for a break. 14 out of 65. Michael Schumacher still all over the gearbox of Jacques Villeneuve's BAR, but it's the old they shall not pass from Jacques Villeneuve. He's keeping the Ferrari behind him, and now Schumacher is over 18 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen, the race leader.
Yes, there's nothing dramatic happened in this intense battle while you're away. Irvine making a very small mistake in the Caxa hairpin, losing a bit of ground now, 1.7 seconds behind this scrap over third place. And Villeneuve has locked his inside front wheel 4 or 5 times just to demonstrate how deep he's going into the braking areas. As the outside tyre loads up, you turn in, and the weight transfers to the outside tyre through the anti-roll bar system, general suspension system. It unloads the inside tyre and makes it lock up even easier. So that's what happens when they go into the slower corners. As soon as the driver turns the wheel and the weight transfers, and we've seen that happen several times for Villeneuve. And there it is again, just slightly, and that's unusual into turn 4. Normally you don't have to brake that hard. I think that demonstrates there's not an awful lot of grip out there, and they're running something like 3.4 seconds off the lap record at the moment, which I think confirms that.
Well, the world champion of 1997 here, Jacques Villeneuve, leads the world champion of 1995 and 1994, but it's the world champion of 1998, Mika Häkkinen, who is leading the race on the 14th lap, and there's news from James Allen in the Ferrari area.
Well, for part of the news, of course, is that Schumacher is bearing down now on Villeneuve, but I was just going to observe, it's worth remembering this was one of the very rare occasions when Michael Schumacher followed Eddie Irvine's tyre choice, and he had to go for the setup to go with it as well. Irvine came here convinced the soft tyres were the way to go because he won the race in Australia on them. He's had it in his head that that was the way to go, and Michael went with him at about 5-1 yesterday afternoon, and you could argue he's paying the price. The problem at the moment, I can't work out how much fuel Michael's got on board because he's stuck behind Villeneuve. But one other observation for you guys, Mika Häkkinen, the last 10 laps have been consistently in the middle 1 minute 25 second bracket. That's Senna-like rhythm, unbelievable.
I think we can now see also, James, why they were changing the Ferraris before they parked them on the line for the start of this race. They clearly weren't happy with the handling, and I think, as I said before, it's desperate measures when you change anything between the warm-up and the race, and we're seeing now the result of that.
2 seconds covers the third, fourth and fifth, and here they are, Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine behind him, but they are 21 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen, who leads David Coulthard by 4.5 seconds.
Yes, I think if Villeneuve is going to 3-stop, he may be coming in the next 2 or 3 laps would make sense. So we'll keep an eye out for that. I've got a feeling these Ferrari drivers will be pleased to get rid of these sets of tyres.
1.5 seconds. Mika Häkkinen is lapping faster than the Villeneuve-Schumacher-Irvine trio that you see, almost all 3 of them in shot. Well, there they are, all 3 in shot. And incidentally, in the background, you can see the biggest crowd that I've ever seen at a Spanish Grand Prix for cars. That's probably because of De La Rosa and Genet, but also because of the way that the Ferraris have been going in comparison with the McLaren so far this season. There is a tremendous Ferrari following here in Spain, as there is in most countries, but McLaren are showing them the way. They are first and second at the present moment, and between Eddie Irvine and Jarno Trulli, who we have seen very little of, but who is driving an absolutely superb race in 6th position, there is 7 seconds. Just 1 second between Trulli and Alesi, who is in 7th position.
Well, Michael Schumacher using a piece of track in turn 3 there, I don't think I've ever been on. Absolutely amazing, so far wide and so early in the corner. Schumacher clearly having a job to keep the front end of the car where he needs it. As Villeneuve carries on, locking up brakes, that just tends to make your front tyres a bit scruffy, and you start having a problem. If you look them too hard, they vibrate very badly. You can barely see where you're going down the straights because they're clearly you've got a bit missing, and they're massively out of balance also for good measure. But also you start to pick up understeer. You've got less tyre generally on the road if you start flat spotting them. So Villeneuve making his front tyres a bit untidy, but nonetheless matching the pace of the Ferraris.
A very uneventful race in terms of place changes so far, and I'm happy to say in terms of retirements, because we still just have the one retirement, although it was really a non-starter. Marc Genet, who didn't get away at the start. Everybody else is still running. Olivier Panis has been lapped in 21st position. Luca Badoer is the last man still to be going in the Minardi, 20th position. And he is already 77 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. Luca Badoer, incidentally, still driving with a bandaged hand, wrist and arm after quite badly hurting his wrist earlier on in the season in a testing accident.
Well, to put it in perspective, Murray, Mika Häkkinen is already just about a pit stop ahead of this scrap for third place, so he's got a pit stop in his pocket anyway, but we know he's on the harder tyres, and almost certainly I would imagine the McLarens are two-stopping, so Häkkinen looking in very good shape in terms of pace, but will it go to the end?
Indeed, yeah, at the present moment it's looking as though the best that Michael Schumacher can hope for, the very best that he can hope for, is third position, which would give him 4 World Championship points, put him on 30 points in comparison with Mika Häkkinen's 24, assuming that happened. But as I've said many times before, there's a long way to go. This is lap 18, it's a 65-lap race. We've seen some pretty dramatic things happening in Formula One this season already. They could just as easily happen here at the Catalunya circuit in Barcelona as Villeneuve and Schumacher go over the line again. And Michael Schumacher now 24.5 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen, who's got a very handy cushion ahead of David Coulthard of 5 seconds. And I'm pretty sure that the 2 McLarens will be on the same strategy. It's beginning to look again like 10 points for Mika Häkkinen, 6 points for David Coulthard. We have yet to have a McLaren 1-2 in 1999. Indeed, we have yet to have both McLarens finishing in the same race in 1999. As Villeneuve leads Schumacher, and into the pits for the first stop now. This is Pedro de la Rosa. Is this a routine stop or not? Yes, it obviously is.
Well, free stop time, isn't it?
He's obviously on a free stopper because that is lap 18. And it's just 2 laps into the earliest stop. I would have expected the earliest stop to be lap 16. He's come in on lap 18. So there's definitely going to be free stoppers as Mika Häkkinen laps Luca Badoer. He's now lapped Panis, he's now lapped Luca Badoer, he's lapped everybody up to 19th place.
Ferrari mechanics out in the pit lane, so maybe they're going to put Schumacher onto a 3-stopper, try and get him some clear air to we think it, actually the information I can see the mechanics there, but the information we're now getting is that it's for Eddie Irvine. Still a bit of smoke coming out of the back of Villeneuve's car when he breaks down there into turn 1. Normally if you get a lot of black dust coming out from the carbon brakes, but I thought that looked a bit blue coming out of Villeneuve's car there. Villeneuve, I'm led to believe, has got his new friend Danny Minogue this weekend and seems a very happy chap.
Martin, if they are bringing Irvine in, I don't understand it. It's quite clear that Michael Schumacher cannot get past Jacques Villeneuve. I would have thought, as an amateur strategist, that it would be better to bring Schumacher in and hope that he can make a quicker pit stop than Villeneuve when he eventually comes in.
Yeah, sorry, Murray, I wasn't really listening to you there. I was looking out the window because they've just pulled all the tyres back in again on the Ferrari.
Oh, well, maybe
what did you say, sorry?
Maybe that explains my theory, or supports it. I was going to say, if they are bringing Irvine in, I can't understand it. But James has got some information for us.
Yeah, it looked like a very hasty decision to bring him in. It was as if Irvine had radioed in to say he wasn't happy with the balance of the tyres. I know that a lot of teams have been complaining that the rear tyres, the soft rear tyres, have been going off after about 12 to 15 laps. Maybe he was beginning to feel that was happening for him, but they came out, and pretty much as quick as they came out, they went back in again. So whatever the problem was, it's gone away again.
Well, you've just seen the McLaren go past. It's David Coulthard in second position, lapping Badoer and Takagi, who are battling for 18th position. Takagi in the black and orange arrows, and Luca Badoer in the silver Minardi. And obviously, Takagi was hoping to take advantage of that to improve his position. He failed to do so. David Coulthard now has lapped everybody up to Alexander Wurz, who's in 17th position. It's a rotten race for Benetton. Fisichella is 14th, Wurz is in 17th position, and in the pits, Wurz is in the pits in the Benetton. And here's the battle between Villeneuve, third on lap 20. Schumacher in fourth position. Eddie Irvine in fifth place. There's the confirmation of the fact that Alexander Wurz is in the pits. 11.5 seconds. And that was lap 20 out of 65. Could be either a two-stop or a three-stop strategy.
Yes, two-stopper would be, as you say, a 22 lap and lap 22 normally, but a couple of 2 or 3 seconds longer than it should have been, that stop for Wurz. So they looked like they were poking around with something on the left-hand side, the bodywork of the car. So because that shouldn't have been as long, it should have been near as 7 or 8 seconds. And this is the Minardi of Badoer running currently down in 20th place. The only man behind him is Panis, who just didn't get off of the start line in the beginning of the race and had to be re-fired up in the pits and rejoined the race a lap late. So Badoer way down. Villeneuve still clinging on to the white line into 3 and clinging on to 3rd place, and he's just pulled a little bit more of a gap now back to Michael Schumacher.
Top 10, lap 21, Hakkinen leads Coulthard. You're looking at the battle between Villeneuve, Schumacher and Irvine for 3rd, 4th, 5th places. Jarno Trulli is still 6th ahead of Jordan Lacey Sauber. Ralf Schumacher is 8th in the Williams. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, disappointingly for Jordan, 9th. And in 10th position, Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart.
Well, it's already been a spectacular week for BAR. It's a major coup for them to pick up that Honda engine deal. And here they are now up in 3rd place. And really, it's a very, very bright week for them. They haven't had a tremendous start, losing Zonta so early on when he damaged his foot into the barrier in Brazil. And Salo, the teammate of Villeneuve's currently back down in 15th place. So probably they'll be looking for Zonta to come back soon.
I was talking to Zonta this morning, incidentally, and I said to him, there's been conjecture that you're not going to be driving in Canada because your foot won't be able to take the braking stresses at that circuit, where a lot of braking is called for. He strongly denied it and said that he would be taking the place back again from Salo in the VAR. Oh, and a big puff of smoke from, I didn't see whether, yes, it must have been from the tyres of Jacques Villeneuve's VAR, as he continues brilliantly to resist the double world champion, Michael Schumacher, and Eddie Irvine, who've driven so well and won races, both of them this year.
Now I think the BAR is holding up the Ferrari. I think he's struggling to slow the car down. Clearly can't get enough rear brake balance. I believe that they overheated their rear brakes in Monaco, although it's a completely different track. I'm sure I saw some smoke and that coming out of the rear of Salo's car when he crashed. And I don't know how their cooling is on that VAR, but for whatever reason, Villeneuve can't crank enough rear brake balance on the car to stop those fronts from locking up. Ferrari boys out in the pit lane again, taking the covers off the tyres this time. Again, the F1 ITV pit crew say it's for Irvine.
Directly opposite us, I can see the mechanic standing there with the tyres and wheels all ready to put onto whichever Ferrari comes in. I must say I'm a bit baffled by one of them hasn't come in earlier in order to try and get past. And it's Eddie Irvine in. You just saw him peel off there. He's stopping opposite me. There he is. Eddie Irvine stops on lap 23. James.
Yeah, I can tell you what the problem Ferrari have today is they've just adjusted the spare front nose cone for Schumacher's car. They've put a few turns of wing in, so if he has some sort of incident, that'll go on. And that means that they've got a serious understeer problem on the front of Schumacher's car. Not a bad stop there from the Ferrari mechanics, a conditional with a 3-stop timescale, I would say.
Well, Eddie Irvine, obviously, of course, has lost about 22 seconds it takes for a typical pit stop here. That's coming in, stopping, changing tyres and wheels, getting back to racing speed out of the pit lane afterwards. And so Jacques Villeneuve has just got one Ferrari behind him now, which means to say that Jarno Trulli comes up into 5th place, Jordan Lacey comes up potentially into the point-scoring 6th position.
McLaren crew now also in the pit lane. I think if you saw the amount of traffic that was in front of Hakkinen's in the pits. Here's Hakkinen now, picking him up, 6.8, a great stop and cleanly away for Mika Hakkinen, up to 120 kilometres per hour. about 75 miles an hour coming out of the pit lane.
But
I think the reason they haven't brought Michael in earlier, Murray, is looking at the traffic that came out in front. Look, Hakkinen back on the racetrack, and third and fourth man still just coming over the start-finish line. So that pit stop he had in his pocket has kept him in the lead, despite having already had his first stop. But
now here is David Coulthard, of course, who is now in the lead. David Coulthard leading in the McLaren, and you saw that as Mika Hakkinen, David Coulthard has got... There he is in the McLaren, the man who's yet to win a race in 1999, and there is Mika Salo in the BAR, the Finnish driver. He's in 16th position, and David Coulthard now looking for a win in 1999 is certainly in the lead at the present moment as the two arrows go past together, Takagi and De La Rosa. And we look down at turn 13, that tremendously demanding corner with Villeneuve and Jacques and Michael Schumacher right behind him. Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR, Schumacher in the Ferrari, and Mika Hakkinen, of course, there he is.
I think Schumacher may well pit this lap. I was trying to say that I think they didn't bring him in earlier because looking at the traffic that was in front of Irvine when he rejoined, they didn't want to put Michael Schumacher back into that. They couldn't take the advantage. Does Michael Schumacher pit this time round? Yes, Villeneuve's in and Schumacher.
Both in. Coulthard leads, Hakkinen second, 12 seconds behind Coulthard, who has yet to stop, and Mika Hakkinen has, of course, stopped. Here is Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, came in right behind now. How's he going to go with him and Jacques Villeneuve? Let's have a look. Schumacher's got away first,
yes,
and Jacques Villeneuve's got a long stop. So Michael Schumacher does what he set out to do, and there he is rejoining in front of Eddie Irvine.
Yes, and Irvine, of course, ahead of Villeneuve too. There's the traffic I was telling you about. It's not working well for Ferrari today, but Villeneuve now behind both Ferraris. He obviously had some kind of pit stop problem or just a slow one. Ralf Schumacher, I see, just coming in for his pit stop too. And in fact, no, sorry, that's Zanardi. I can see in the distance there in the pits. He's not on your TV screen. You're watching the two Ferraris now effectively in third and fourth place.
Yeah, bottled up behind one of the Jordans. I think it's Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is in 7th position. Damon Hill is in 11th place. There is Ralf Zanardi. I'm sorry, Zanardi in the Williams. Oh, and it's all gone wrong again for Alex Zanardi, whose return to Formula One has not been at all what he hoped it would be. No drive at all from the Williams there. Is that a retirement for Zanardi? If so, it'll be running true to form for his 1999 Formula One season. Now, there's a bit of a gap here. While you watch the Jordan and the two Ferraris, let me tell you the order on lap 26. David Coulthard not stopped. He's about 12 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen, who has. Up into second place has come a Lacey, who has not stopped. Ralf Schumacher is in 4th position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is 5th. Michael Schumacher, who has stopped, is 6th. Eddie Irvine, who has stopped, is in 7th position, and Jacques Villeneuve down to 8th.
Now watch this, look how the Ferraris have been behind that Jordan for over a lap now. I assume it's Damon Hill. I haven't had a close-up of that. We've only had an aerial shot, and in fact, no, I think it's Frentzen. Yeah. Frentzen hasn't yet stopped, so he's up in 5th place. So, in fact, yes, he's right. He doesn't have to pull over. He is in a genuine 5th place. He's not about to be lapped. And again, that is holding the Ferraris back. Just not working out at all today. Coulthard, the leader, takes to the pit lane.
Yeah, David Coulthard from the lead. He's going to lose it now to Mika Hakkinen, who will regain the lead position. And the question is Jean Lacey going to go through into 2nd position?
Schumacher just completely overshot his pit. Look, completely overshot his pit. And the mechanics all had to move. That did not at all right there. And Coulthard costing himself 6 seconds over teammate Mika Hakkinen, just came in way too fast.
So, I suppose easily done. We all expect them to drive like robots and automatons. They're human beings. Everybody makes a mistake. David Coulthard in the McLaren made one there, and it certainly cost him time. But he was in a pretty strong position in comparison with Jean Lacey. And here come the Ferraris over the line. Michael Schumacher in 5th position, Eddie Irvine in 6th. Ahead of them, Ralph Schumacher is 4th, Alesi is 3rd, and then the 2 McLaren.
Yeah, sorry if I said Schumacher overshot his pit. It was Coulthard, of course. I happened to be watching him out the window. Looked like he was coming in way too fast, and all his mechanics having to scatter. He's rejoined the track in 2nd place, but he's going to be a long, long way behind Mika Häkkinen now.
Tora Takagi being lapped by Michael Schumacher, being lapped by Eddie Irvine. We're on lap 27 out of 65. That's the first lot of pit stops out of the way, except for Ralf Schumacher, who is in 4th position, which he's not going to retain for very long. He'll come in, although he may well be on a long strategy. He might only be stopping, he will be stopping twice, and then his brother will go past him, if not before, because now there is Michael Schumacher, there is Eddie Irvine. They're closing on Ralf Schumacher in the Williams, who is in 4th position. And so, lap 28, Mika Häkkinen leads, David Coulthard, John Alesi is 3rd, Ralf Schumacher is 4th, Michael Schumacher is 5th, and Eddie Irvine, we're leaving Catalonia, we'll be back, we're going for a break. Lap 29, here is Mika Häkkinen going through. He's regained the lead, of course. He's ahead of David Coulthard in 2nd position. And here is John Alesi, who qualified a superb 5th in the Sauber. Sadly going out of the race. He dropped to 9th position after a pit stop. He really, really did not deserve that. But now Michael Schumacher here is in 3rd position. It's McLaren, Ferrari.
And Michael Schumacher just setting a new fastest lap of the race on an absolute charge. Now he's got some clear air and a new set of tyres. Michael Schumacher 124.982, and that is 1.1 seconds faster than the 2 leaders, and he is 15 seconds behind David Coulthard and a full 28 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. So a lot of work to do, but Michael now setting about one of his charges. We're not even halfway through this race yet. Plenty of time, but I don't know if the tyres will stand this kind of treatment.
Nevertheless, it's great to see Schumacher on one of his typical charges. He's got, as you rightly say, a gigantic amount to do, because 28 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. But if anybody can do it, Michael can, and if anybody can resist him, Mika Häkkinen can. So it's going to be fascinating. Lap 30, coming up towards half distance.
Just if you're wondering if why they're running the soft tyres, and if it is a mistake, why didn't they put hard tyres on at the pit stop? Just to remind you, they have to commit after the Saturday morning practice before qualifying which type of tyre they're going to use for the rest of the weekend. So if you go on the soft ones, you're stuck with it, come what may.
Well, Michael Schumacher's last lap was 1.5 seconds faster than David Coulthard's. And Mika Häkkinen now is still leading by 28 seconds. And James Allen has got news about Coulthard's pit stop.
Well, it was absolutely unbelievable, Murray. When he came in, I heard this incredible cracking sound. As you say, he overshot the pit. And I've just been looking, and they've broken the front jack. Now, these cars come in about 70, 80 miles an hour. There's a guy standing in front of it waiting to pull him up. Just imagine what he must have felt like when he was hit by that force to break the front jack. Just to tidy up something I said earlier, Häkkinen's stop was very fast indeed at 6.8 seconds for a two-stopper, but I do think he is on 2. I said 3, but I've changed my mind now. I think it's 2.
Well, Michael Schumacher just 0.6 of a second on the previous lap faster than Mika Häkkinen. He's catching David Coulthard, though. He was 1.2 seconds faster than David Coulthard. He's cut the gap between himself and the second-place McLaren to 14 seconds on lap 31 out of 65. This is a classic Michael Schumacher charge. This is his 122nd Grand Prix. Jean Alesi is the man who's got the most Grand Prix experience of all of current Grand Prix drivers. He's out of this Spanish Grand Prix. Of course, we've just seen the Sauber come to a standstill. And there are 18 competitors left. Alesi is out. Zanardi, his terrible Formula One season continues, is out of the race. Olivier Panis in the Prost has retired. Marc Genet has retired. Luca Badoer is the last runner. He has been lapped. Everybody up to 13th has been lapped by Mika Häkkinen, and the 13th place is Giancarlo Fisichella in the Benetton. His teammate Alex Wurz in the second Benetton has been lapped. He's 15th. Bad race for Benetton.
Well, as you've seen for yourself, this is more a game of chess than a stock car race. But Michael Schumacher is about to try to make a decisive move. He's now brought the gap down to 13 seconds to David Coulthard and lapping about a second a lap faster than both the McLarens ahead of him.
Yes, I know. It's an incredible drive already, but Mika Häkkinen will know exactly what the situation is. He will be in touch with his pits through the radio. Ron Dennis will be talking to him and telling him exactly what the score is. Mika Häkkinen, enormously experienced driver. This is his 117th Grand Prix, the reigning world champion with 10 victories behind him already since that memorable one the year before last when he won in Jerez.
Yes, I just saw Coulthard. As Coulthard came into view, something was disappearing down the pit lane. I wonder what it was, but it's De La Rosa in the arrows, I think. So nobody that's running up at the front. Coulthard now second place, 14 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. There's the De La Rosa car in for what will be the I don't know what kind of stop that'll be, what kind of strategy actually. It's second to 3, but that's even earlier than the first one they used. So,
well, Michael Schumacher has just gone round in 1 minute 25 seconds, and that's only 0.8 of a second slower than last year's fastest lap on 3 groove tyres. Michael has really got the bit between his teeth, sector by sector. He's going fastest of all. He's just done it in this first sector of this lap of some 2.9 miles. And Michael Schumacher has got the gap between himself and David Coulthard from 14 seconds down to just over 11 seconds. Terrific bit of driving, but he's still 26 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. But we have yet to reach the half. Well, we're just on the half-distance lap now. Lap 33 out of 65, and Michael Schumacher is creating an absolutely searing pace in the McLaren. He's got a clear track in front of him. Eddie Irvine in the second McLaren in 4th place is now 5 seconds behind his team leader, the man you're looking at, Michael Schumacher. Look at those comparisons.
Well, that's Coulthard coming up to lap that race between Salo and Wurz. So Salo
being
just in
held
front of
up, is he?
so Coulthard not having a good run through the traffic. Michael Schumacher's got the gap down to 9.6 seconds.
No doubt about it. David Coulthard is being held up by Salo, who's resisting Woods, but Salo in the second BAR. His teammate Jacques Villeneuve is still running in 5th position, and they're occupied with each other's battle. Salo is trying to prevent Woods getting past him. Woods is trying to get past, and David Coulthard goes inside the Benetton. That's one of them that he's got rid of, but this is helping Michael Schumacher, and I think that Schumacher will find it easier to get past Wurz and Salo than David Coulthard did. It's going to be the old story of the drivers seeing that scarlet Ferrari in their mirrors and moving over, or is it?
I'm not too convinced about that story. It's really a question of them seeing the blue flags, but Coulthard's got to dive up the inside and make it count early, because for sure, there you go, that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to be firm with the back markers, because that's exactly what Michael Schumacher's going to do when he arrives on the scene.
And it won't be so long now. 9.6 seconds was the gap between David Coulthard and Schumacher, and Louise has got news.
Yes, I'm standing here with Alex Rinaldi. Alex, you made it into the pits. Why didn't you make it out again?
Well, recently you never come and see me because I'm too slow, so I decided to stop and see if you would come and interview me. No, besides joking, I was told to select the gear, as I did. I heard a strange noise, and when I released the clutch, I had no drive, nothing happened, so that was it.
Problems always seem to come your way. How much more bad luck do you think you can take?
I can take as much bad luck as he wants to come, as long as it comes when the car is not super competitive. I am sure it's just a question of time. The Winfield Williams team will give me a competitive car, and I hope then I'll run out of bad luck and I'll be able to enjoy some success.
Thanks, Alex.
You're welcome.
Well, Alex there not having a good run in Formula 1. I think that's the wrong time to make a joke. He's got to be demonstrating he's taking more pain than that. I'm sorry, it's not the right attitude, and it's not going at all well from him, and I know his bosses will not appreciate a jokey situation like that, because it's desperate days at the moment.
Well, I can tell you that Johnny Herbert, who is in 12th position, has just been given the blue flag because Fisichella is trying to get past him. And if Johnny sees 2 more of those and doesn't move over, he's going to be in major trouble. Meantime, Mika Häkkinen, there he is, race leader, scything his way through the field in the McLaren. He's just got ahead of the Stewart there, and that is Michael Schumacher in 2nd place now. He's only 6.5 seconds behind David Coulthard, who was held up by that bit of traffic, which Michael Schumacher himself is going to come on shortly. And meantime, Mika Häkkinen's lead has been over Schumacher, has been reduced from some 28 seconds to 20, just over 20 seconds.
Sit back and enjoy this. You're seeing a classic drive there from Michael Schumacher. Stunning, absolutely showing why he's rated as the best man in the world, even though he didn't win the World Championship in either of the last 2 years. This is a classic charge from a great racing driver. Sit back and enjoy it.
Yes, lap 36 out of 65. Häkkinen leads Coulthard by 14 seconds, leads Schumacher by under 21 seconds. Irvine is 27 seconds behind Häkkinen in 4th place. Jacques Villeneuve is still 5th. Jarno Trulli is still 6th. Ralf Schumacher is 7th. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is 8th. Barrichello 9th. Denise 10th. Damon Hill 11th. And Herbert 12th.
Taking no prisoners, says Michael Schumacher, coming from a full 50-60 metres behind there and all over the grass. Total commitment from Michael. Look at that, there's no track left, and Michael Schumacher absolutely on it, and still the fastest man on the track, even with that traffic.
Yeah, and he still gained on David Coulthard in spite of that traffic. Admittedly, only by 1/10 of a second, but nevertheless, he has continued to gain. And David Coulthard is catching Häkkinen. Now, I don't know what's happening, but Mika Häkkinen is slowing down, no doubt about it. David Coulthard is now 13 seconds behind Häkkinen and only 6 seconds ahead of Schumacher.
Yeah, but we saw Häkkinen overtaking Johnny Herbert into turn 1, had to take the tighter line, remember. You always lose a little bit of time when you do that, but nevertheless, this is the man making the pace at the moment by some margin.
Now, the fastest lap we have had so far is that of Michael Schumacher, 1 minute 24.9, which is 0.7 of a second only, slower than Mika Häkkinen's fastest lap in the McLaren last year when he was sweeping all before him. And of course, Mika Häkkinen won here last year.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen has dropped out of the race. You can see him there. We think it's a drive shaft broken from our information. And let's have a look. We're just pulling off to the side of the racetrack, look, so no particular drama, just lost drive in the car. Frentzen out of the race. That promotes Hill to the #1 Jordan driver in the race, and currently P10, Eddie Jordan there with a little shake of the head. That's the first bit of bad luck Frentzen's had really for a while, and bad news for him. But Michael Schumacher on his way, still taking 6, 9 tenths out of both the McLaren drivers. He's now got the lead under 20 seconds.
Damon Hill telling me earlier today, Martin, about Heinz-Harald Frentzen's quirky sense of humour. Heinz-Harald goes up to Trevor Foster, the Jordan managing director, and says, "I think you are an alien. Show me your credentials." So, Michael Schumacher now, third position. He's on a faster lap yet again. Just on 6 seconds behind David Coulthard, who continues to edge up on Michael Schumacher. The gap between Häkkinen and Schumacher is 19 seconds. Louise has news. Oh no, we've got to go to a break. Lap 40, 25 to go. Michael Schumacher third, can see David Coulthard ahead of him now. Only 4 seconds ahead of him on the road. And Michael Schumacher is lapping 0.7 of a second faster. Superb.
Yes, what a magnificent wheelsmith this man is, and he really is on a charge. That change of tyres has just transformed this Ferrari. I guess he must have hurt them in the early laps, just following the BAR of Villeneuve. And now, look, he can see the rear wing of Coulthard down the straight. Coulthard locking brakes, trying hard into Caxa hairpin. Michael Schumacher correcting the car. Watch his hand on the wheel. As you turn into some of these hairpins, your own hand obscures your vision. You're so tight in the car, and the steering wheel has to be so high to get your legs in. You obscure your own vision with your hands, but it's not a problem. You can look around them, and Michael Schumacher on yet another fast lap. He's going to have 4 or 5 tenths out of Coulthard again on this lap. It's going to down to 3 seconds. The lead is Coulthard 3 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Oh, and Coulthard taking a brave lunge up the inside. Very, very necessary Hakkinen now just 11.9 seconds in the lead of Michael Schumacher in third place.
It's getting absolutely terrific. David Coulthard races inside Johnny Herbert to lap the Stewart. Herbert is in 11th place, and while you're watching David Coulthard, I'll tell you about the rest. Hakkinen, and they're getting ready for Eddie Irvine in the pits, I can tell you that. Jacques Villeneuve is in the pits. The race order now, on lap 41, Hakkinen leads Coulthard by 12 seconds. He leads Schumacher by 15 seconds. Irvine is fourth, coming into the pits. Jacques Villeneuve fifth, coming into the pits. Jarno Trulli is in sixth position. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams is in 7th place, and that is Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR. 8th is Barrichello, 9th is Deniz, and 10th is Damon Hill.
Look, they're taking a rear wing element out of Villeneuve's. They're taking an element out to reduce the rear wing. I don't see the point in doing that in the middle of a race, unless it was already loose on one side. Now, don't just try and break that off, please, because you could break the side fence. Off he goes. They need to get... Oh, now he's stalled the engine.
Wow,
so,
what a mess.
They're going to push him forward. I don't think they'll push start because there's not enough hydraulics to pull the clutch. The hydraulic pressure fades away. Bring the starter. He's getting out of the car, isn't he?
That's completely blown it for Jacques Villeneuve. I'm not going to condemn because I don't know what the real circumstances were, but it was certainly a bodged effort getting that element off the wing. Then Jacques Villeneuve stalls.
Irvine in the pits, and while we were watching that little fiasco down at VAR, Michael Schumacher's close to within 2.4 seconds of second place man David Coulthard. Irvine's pit stop 8.4, not bad, but not as quick as they have been through this race. But Irvine in a clear and solid fourth place. He lost 14 seconds now to Schumacher with that magnificent charge of Michael's.
And the first of the leaders to stop a second time, and it's my guess that that's it for Eddie Irvine. He's on 2/3 of race distance now, but there's news from James Allen.
Very, very exciting down here, Murray. We're into the second pit stop window, as you just said. I've been studying Mika Häkkinen's lap times. The last few laps, they went out to the 1:27 range. Michael Schumacher was taking 2 seconds a lap out of him. There were some frantic words between Ron Dennis and Adrian Newey on the wall. No evidence anything wrong with the car. Suddenly, Häkkinen's waking up again. 1:25s again. Martin, what's going on?
Well, it's a 1:25.8 he's just done as we watch Jacques Villeneuve being wheeled back into the garage. That's his 5th retirement in 5 races, but that's by far his best Grand Prix since it... Oh, look at this! Here is Coulthard in second position, and Michael Schumacher right behind him. 0.8 of a second. Never mind that, it's visual. It's visual. Häkkinen is leading by 13.7 seconds. Here is the battle for second place, but David Coulthard will not be giving up easily.
Well, Schumacher's coming at him with such speed as we watch Johnny...
Herbert retiring. Johnny Herbert in the Stewart retiring from 13th. Well, I said there weren't many retirements. There are now. Villeneuve is out, Herbert is out, Frentzen Alesi, Zanardi, Panis and Jeunet.
Well, it sounds like he's just got tick over rev, so that could probably be a hydraulic problem, and emergency get you home throttle there. He's hooked it into 3rd or 4th gear. I'm almost certain he's lost hydraulics, which means he will have lost throttle action as well. So yeah, Coulthard's going to come under increasing pressure. Both McLarens have got to pick their pace up, and they don't seem to have the grip to do it. They've been toing and froing in the traffic, which I think is confusing the issue slightly. But Ferrari team out in the pit lane. It must be for Schumacher, because we've seen, we know that Irvine's already been in for a second and final stop, so they're going to bring Michael Schumacher in now and hope to get some clear air. They must bring Coulthard in. Now that's going to hurt Schumacher. Look, if that Arrows doesn't get on with it down the pit lane, it's going to hold him up. Not what he needs, but luckily the Arrows does reasonably get on with it. Anyway, still cost Michael a couple of seconds that he didn't need to lose, and Coulthard has just got to get a spurt on now. Otherwise, he's going to be seeing this man in front of him very soon.
It was Tora Takagi in the Arrows coming into the pit. Wow, that was a mega stop. 7.7 seconds, and Michael Schumacher rejoins, but of course that's given a breather to Mika Häkkinen and especially to David Coulthard, who Michael Schumacher had closed right up on. And Michael Schumacher rejoins ahead of Salo and Fisichella, but I think behind Damon Hill, who has stopped just the once, And here is Mika Häkkinen, race leader, by 15 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, lap 44.
I'd be pulling Coulthard in now. I'd get him straight in, get him on a fresh set of tyres, although that means he's got to carry more fuel load. The McLaren mechanics are just coming out into the pit lane as they push Johnny Herbert's, I assume it's Johnny Herbert's steward.
Yes, it is.
Stewart forward out of the way. McLaren boys are out. Who's going to make it into the pits of... it's Häkkinen. They're pitting Häkkinen first.
So there he is, nice clean stop.
Yeah, quite steady into the pit garage there, and no dramas. In fact, probably a bit too steady, I would have thought. Looks like a good stop. Car's down, everybody's thumbs are up, and off he goes. 0.2 of a second slower.
Coulthard leads. He goes through just as Mika Häkkinen comes out. So David Coulthard back into the lead, which he took when Mika Häkkinen came in for his first stop. And David Coulthard, of course, will be coming in again, and Häkkinen will retake that lead if all goes well for the McLarens. But it's still on lap 45 out of 65 as we are in the last third of the Spanish Grand Prix. Häkkinen leading Coulthard. Schumacher in third position, having made his second stop, as has Eddie Irvine, who is fourth. Ralf Schumacher has still got to stop. He's in fifth position. He stopped once. He's going to come in again. Rubens Barrichello up into the points in the Stewart, sixth place. Damon Hill, 1 place off the points, is seventh. He's ahead of Jarno Trulli, who ran sixth for so long. Mika Salo, the only BAR left in the race because Villeneuve has retired, is eighth. He's ninth. And Fisichella and Wurz in the Benettons are 10th and 11th, with the arrows of De La Rosa in 12th position.
Yes, it's Coulthard leading the race at the moment because he hasn't made the second stop. The computers haven't yet accounted for those pit stops. It's still showing Häkkinen in the lead, but Coulthard is in the lead and in the pit lane. So Coulthard coming in for his second and final stop. Try not to charge through your mechanics this time, David. And a much calmer entry there. And up goes the car, quick wipe on the visor, about 18 men involved in that pit stop. And turn it over, put first gear in and go. That's a very good stop, 0.3 faster than Michael Schumacher's and 0.5 faster than Mika Häkkinen.
Here's Schumacher, it's going to be mighty close.
It is going to be
mighty close. There is Coulthard, there is Schumacher, and Coulthard gets out on the track just ahead of Schumacher.
But Schumacher's going to have a good run out of turn 2, but I don't think he's close enough. Coulthard should have enough tyre temperature, just about. And Michael's big chance is under braking into 4, if not into the next corner now, short straight into 4. If Coulthard can hold him there, then he can get some more tyre temperature. He needs about 90 degrees centigrade in those Bridgestones. They come out of the blankets at about 80. His brakes will be slightly cooler, but it takes 3 or 4 corners to get your confidence up. And now Michael's missed that chance, but we know the sort of speed he's got in that Ferrari. Now he's got some fresher tyres on it, but now, of course, he's back in the dirty era of Coulthard's car, as he was with the BAR at the beginning of the race.
Absolutely, and we saw that he couldn't get past Villeneuve. Why should he be able to get ahead of David Coulthard, which, of course, is a terrific break for Mika Häkkinen, who is back in the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix.
Well, Coulthard's paying a heavy price now for messing up his first pit stop by charging in too fast and skidding through the box, and the mechanics having to move everything cost him 6 or 7 seconds, and that's why this man is, other than his stunning drive, his comeback drive, that's why Michael Schumacher is able to look at the back of that McLaren. But now it's a little bit status quo.
Well, and it's certainly starting to look, and I'm being very careful with my words, as though McLaren have overcome their reliability problems, which have struck in the previous 4 Grand Prix, with both drivers failing to finish in the same race. But we've got news from Louise Goodman. What is it, Louise?
I'm standing here with Jacques Villeneuve, who can give us the news himself. Jacques, people tugging at the back of your car. What was going on there?
Well, it was okay until the first pit stop, but then after the first pit stop, the rear wing broke. So the car became very loose, and when we pitted for the second time, then the first gear broke.
Early part of the race, though, you seem to have no problem keeping the Ferraris behind you.
No, you know, we're a little bit behind on horsepower. It's a very strong engine, but we're still a little bit behind, and we're running a little bit less downforce. So it was okay down the straight, but the car was sliding a lot around the corners.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, well done, Jacques Villeneuve. Enormous encouragement for the BAR team and for Jacques himself. as he said himself, and as I said earlier on, they haven't got the strongest engine in the race. Mercedes is reckoned to have that very close. And what's happened? It looked to me as though Schumacher was dropping back a bit there.
Yeah, he's not as quick on this third set of tyres as he was on the middle stint, and it looks to me like Coulthard's reasonably comfortably pulling away. Coulthard is some 9/10 of a second faster on this lap than Michael Schumacher. You can see for yourself how the gap is just opening out. So David Coulthard there, yes, a full 1.2 in the end. By the end of the lap, 1.2 seconds faster. And Michael appearing to really struggle to get the power down.
Now, are Ferrari going to have a reliability problem for the first time this year? I think not.
It could just be something, well, it's not a simple matter because it's a very complex matter, but the tyre pressures are super critical. You've got more deflection, more movement. That's the fuel flap there, up and down, flapping up and down on Eddie Irvine's car. Not a particularly dramatic problem, frankly, but most of the suspension travel, the total movement of the car, is in the deflection of the sidewall of the tyre. The suspension itself moves maximum 10-12 millimetres, just over half an inch or so, and you get a lot more movement in the tyre. So tyre pressure is very, very critical, and often that's why you get a variation. As a driver, you're convinced it's a different compound or a bad tyre or something, but more often than not, it's a variation in your tyre pressures.
We just saw Pedro de la Rosa exiting the pits in the Arrows. There are 14 cars left. You're watching the McLaren now, and the race leader is Mika Häkkinen on his 49th lap. 1-3, 13 seconds ahead of this battle between David Coulthard, who's second, Michael Schumacher, who is third. Now, the gap between Coulthard and Schumacher was 2.4 seconds. It's gone up to 2.9 seconds. Irvine is fourth. Damon Hill is well in the points now in the Jordan, fifth position, ahead of Ralph Schumacher's Williams. Trulli is seventh in the Prost, and Barrichello is eighth in the Stewart. Salo ninth, Fisichella 10th, and the remaining four runners out of the 22 started: Wurz, De La Rosa, Takagi and Badr, and we're going for a break. You're watching David Coulthard second.
Yeah, David Coulthard making another second there on Michael Schumacher. Schumacher clearly not happy. That's Fisichella, I think, going off at Kampser again, just like Wurz did early on in the race, and getting back on the road. So both Benettons having a pretty fraught afternoon. And Coulthard there now, 4.2 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher in third, and slowly but slowly homing in on race leader Mika Häkkinen.
Alexander Wurz there in the pits. They're very unhappy, the Benetton drivers. They were complaining all through the 2 practice sessions on Friday and Saturday and qualifying about their inability to get any grip out of the Benettons.
I saw this so many times in my days of driving over a long period, where a couple of young guys come along, they jump into a car that's been set up by somebody like a Lacey and Berger, as Fisichella and Wurz did at Benetton, and they look good, they're young, they're fresh, they're used to winning, and they can sometimes humble the more experienced drivers. The drivers get pushed out, and suddenly they're the ones that have got to take the team off in the right direction and help sort it all out. And that's when the lack of experience hurts. And I think Wurz and Fisichella are going through exactly that process of not feeding the team with the right information, the right direction to take their cars forward.
You saw Johnny Herbert earlier on retiring from the Spanish Grand Prix. The reason was a lack of drive, some problem in the transmission. No problem for Mika Häkkinen, who is securely on his way to his 11th Grand Prix victory in his career of 117 Grand Prix. Not as good a record as Michael Schumacher, but a very enviable one nevertheless. David Coulthard still continues to hold that second place. And I don't know whether it's Michael Schumacher's third set of tyres that's giving him a problem, or whether David Coulthard has got a particularly good set. It always surprises me that one set of tyres can be that much different from another when they come out of the same moulds and are made by the same process.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think it's a matter of tyre pressure rather than tyre rubber compound. I mean, the chemical reaction between the rubber and the racetrack is a pretty complex one, and not always as obvious as it may seem either. Not always. It doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to, but quite clearly Coulthard's happier now and very much homing in on Mika Häkkinen, but I don't think he's got enough extra speed to win the race from there. I think that overshoot in the pit lane is going to hurt him. Damon Hill has now finally made his second stop very, very late in the race, and that put him down from 5th. You're looking at him now, put him down from 5th to 8th place. So the top 6 are Häkkinen, Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Irvine, Ralf Schumacher and Jarno Trulli, having a pretty good race actually. Trulli, he's been there all afternoon. We've not really talked much about him, but he's been in the points scoring position all through the race so far.
Yeah, and the Prost team have only got 1 World Championship point so far, and it was Jarno Trulli that scored it. So I tell a lie, it was Olivier Panis who scored it. My apologies to Olivier, who was in 6th position in Brazil. But Trulli has been the quicker man this season. Panis long since out of the race. He did 28 laps and then retired. And there are 14 cars left at the present moment. And the leader has lapped everybody. Mika Häkkinen has lapped everybody as he comes up to Pedro de la Rosa in 12th position.
Yes, he's lapped everybody up to 8th position. He hasn't lapped the top 8.
Taking De La Rosa for the 2nd time.
Yes, so easily done there. De La Rosa sees the leader coming, no problem at all. Plenty of room there to let a car blend past you. Häkkinen on his way. His lead now down to just 9.6 seconds.
But nevertheless, Coulthard continuing to gain. 12 laps left to go. And Häkkinen is in a very secure position because Coulthard is only taking a 10th or so of a second out of Häkkinen's lead. It looks quite impressive on the computer, but it's not nearly as impressive on the track. Mika Häkkinen is very much in control of this race, and at the present moment David Coulthard is very much in control of 2nd place ahead of Michael Schumacher. Still McLaren, Ferrari, as we look at Jarno Trulli in 6th position and Rubens Barrichello, who is 7th. Now this is the battle. Oh, and somebody a spinner there. It looked like Badar to me, facing the wrong way, stationary on the track, as Rubens Barrichello is going for the last point at the present moment by getting to. It is Luca Badar, the Italian, out out of the race. Yeah, and they're attaching the tow rope to get him off, get the Minardi off the track.
I think they'll be able to cover that one under waved yellows. I don't see a safety car situation there as long as Badoa gets out of the car. Barrichello having a look up the inside. He's not close enough, but Truly closes the line anyway, and that gives Barrichello a clearer run out of 2. But there's such a short distance into 3. There's really no time to use that extra speed, and he'll just have to be a little bit more patient.
Well, Jarno Trulli looking for his first point of the season for 6th position. Rubens Barrichello looking for his 3rd lot of points, because he was 3rd in San Marino and he was 5th in Australia.
Yes, and just behind there's Damon Hill chasing that bunch too. So Damon in 8th place can see 6th place, 6th and 7th just ahead of him.
Yeah, and Damon has only had 1 World Championship point scoring position so far this year. He wants every point he can get, because Harold Frentzen has been showing Damon the way this year in the Jordan team. Frentzen out of the race a long time ago, of course, and the fact that Trulli is holding up Barrichello is giving Damon Hill a chance to close on the Stewart. 6th, 7th and 8th together.
Damon Hill was 2.5 seconds faster than this pair on the last lap, so he'll be right up behind Barrichello anytime soon. And, well, both the Jordan and the Stewart got some pretty handy straight line speed. And they've just got to get close enough out of this last fast corner, which is damn near impossible to do, following another Formula 1 car closely, to make use of that extra speed down the start-finish straight.
Very interesting. 3 different engines there. The Peugeot in the Prost, the Ford in the Stewart, and the Mugen Honda in the Jordan. And they look pretty equal down the straight there, which is a credit in particular to the Peugeot engine. They've got a brand new one coming for next year. James Allen's got some news for us.
Well, we saw in Monaco, Murray, how difficult it is for a race leader when he comes up upon 3 cars racing. I can tell you that Mika Häkkinen is about to come up behind the 3 cars you're watching. It's going to really open things up again.
And yes, David Coulthard is continuing to close on Häkkinen. The gap is under 9 seconds now with 10 laps to go. But it's not affecting Schumacher. He's still 5 seconds behind Coulthard.
Yeah, well spotted, James. We just caught a flash of Häkkinen's rear wing at the previous corner. So Häkkinen about to have a handful getting through this lot. They're going to have to yield, but they're not going to want to. They're going to want to yield as little as possible. And Mika can't back off. He's got Coulthard coming at him 8.8 behind. And Michael Schumacher is still only 14.2 seconds behind.
Yeah, and it's going to be the blue flags, I think, that make these 3 alter their speed, because each of them is trying to do something about the other in their different ways. There's Häkkinen, and he's coming up behind Damon Hill's yellow Jordan, which is 8th. Rubens Barrichello's white Stewart, which is 7th. Jarno Trulli's blue Prost, which is in 6th position. There is the race leader. Now, the gap was 8.8 seconds between Häkkinen and Coulthard. It's going to start coming down, I think, unless Häkkinen can really slice his way through the traffic. 8.3 seconds. David Coulthard has taken half a second out of Mika Häkkinen before Mika had even come up to that traffic. So, there is Trulli, 6th. Excellent drive by the young Italian, multiple kart champion, world champion, and then he went on to become the German Formula 3 champion and took his place in the Minardi team for just 7 races when he was taken over by the Prost team. Now there is the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Where is the McLaren of David? Just looking at the speed of Schumacher. No, I think the time's all right. He's actually taken a bit out of David Coulthard's lead over him. David Coulthard in 2nd position. You're looking at the 3rd position Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, a previous winner here in Spain. But Mika Häkkinen is on his 57th lap.
Look at this. Schumacher's about to take 0.8 of a second out of Coulthard on this lap, looking at the computer section time. So, for some reason, David Coulthard's lost a little bit of pace. Then Häkkinen's through Hill.
He's got past you.
Häkkinen's through the 3rd. Now, that's good. He's managed to split them up, really, a little bit, and that'll take some of the fears out of their particular scrap, and that is working very, very well there for Mika Häkkinen. And there's Coulthard. And there you saw Schumacher, and there's why Coulthard was going a bit slow. He's past that arrows. Michael Schumacher still very much with the McLaren in sight.
4 seconds between Schumacher and Coulthard. So it's getting very tense for second position. It's looking good for Mika Häkkinen. So Michael Schumacher there in third position. We're leaving Catalonia. Join us again soon. Lap 60 of 65, Mika Häkkinen in traffic. He's being caught by Coulthard, there he is. And Michael Schumacher is catching Coulthard. There is now only 10 seconds between Mika Häkkinen in the lead and Michael Schumacher in third position. There is the German. I don't think that Coulthard can do anything about Häkkinen. I don't think Schumacher can do anything about Coulthard, but my goodness, everyone is trying.
I'm not so sure about this. I know there's only 6 laps left to go. There's a lot of traffic in play. Really depends if Mika... I think Mika should have had the final one of those, passed the final one of those 3 squabbling over 6th place and on this lap. And that then leaves David Coulthard and Mika. Yes, Häkkinen has cleared those 3. He's cleared Truly, look, and easily takes Takagi. So Häkkinen now, I believe, with some clear space ahead of him. Decisive lap. Look at that. He's had to get through that lot. Decisive lap for him. And now Coulthard's got to clear that lot. He's got a group of 4 now. I have a feeling Takagi will have dropped out of that group when Häkkinen gets there. But Michael Schumacher's chance to pounce is going to come up anytime soon. And a terrific scrap going on between Rubens Barrichello and Damon Hill there in the yellow Jordan, who is in 8th position, and Jarno Trulli, who is 6th. 6th, 7th and 8th together, and they're coming up behind Takagi. There is Trulli lapping Takagi in the arrows. There is Barrichello going through and following the frost as Takagi takes his line, and Damon Hill goes through as well. So Takagi's been lapped all of a sudden again by Trulli, by Barrichello, by Hill. There is David Coulthard coming up, and he's got to get through this traffic that Häkkinen has already got through. Häkkinen is on lap 61 out of 65. David Coulthard was 4.8 seconds behind the leader there, Mika Häkkinen, but David is going to be held up. Häkkinen should be able to increase his lead again now, and Michael Schumacher, meantime, is only 3.5 seconds behind Coulthard. You could well be right, Martin. It could be a lot more exciting in the closing stages of this race than I thought just a few laps ago. Yeah, we haven't got a shot yet of where there's Coulthard. He hasn't quite caught the pack. I didn't see Michael Schumacher in the background.
Yes, he's there. He's there.
So, there he is. There's De La Rosa.
He's coming up to Takagi now.
Takagi, and then Schumacher. Oh, that's cost him badly.
Move over, Tora. Let him through.
and that's really cost Michael badly. Now he's going to have to go the long way round. There's a few tenths of a second gone, gives Coulthard a little bit of breathing space, but Coulthard is yet really to come up on the back of that pack, and when he does, he's going to have to seize the initiative and get through them quickly. He always needs a car between him and Michael Schumacher in these closing floor laps, and here comes Coulthard now, coming up to the back of Hill to lap him. Can he get up the inside into turn one? That definitely cost Michael Schumacher dearly on the last lap.
David Hill is not going to yield to David Coulthard. He's involved in his battle with Rubens Barrichello. This is helping Michael Schumacher no end. The third place Ferrari is going to start closing on the McLaren because Coulthard is not getting past Irvine. And Hill is not getting past Barrichello, and Barrichello is not getting past Truddy. Great scrap for sixth position is holding up David Coulthard in second place and allowing Michael Schumacher to catch him.
David tries up the inside. I don't see the blue flags. Where are the blue flags? They should be out. So I haven't seen one hanging out yet.
Neither have I.
Apparently for car 15 and 7, the blues have been waved. That's none of those that Coulthard and Schumacher. So yeah, David has just received his first blue flag. If he goes past 3, he'll be in trouble.
Schumacher. Look at Schumacher in the background. He's almost on the tail now as David Coulthard, who goes through inside Damon Hill. Damon Hill will see the Ferrari coming up behind him now, but that's a big help for David Coulthard. He's got a cushion of the yellow Jordan between himself and the scarlet Ferrari. Mika Häkkinen is on lap 62. He's leading by 6 seconds from David Coulthard, and you can see the gap between the McLaren and the Ferrari. There it is. The Ferrari closing up on Damon Hill's yellow Jordan, and Mika Häkkinen is on his 63rd lap. Only 2 laps to go after this one. Michael Schumacher down into turn 1. Now, the question is, I think that's it. I have to say, I think that's it. This is the 63rd lap. And Schumacher is not closing on Damon fast enough.
He may be able to have a go up the inside of him into 5.
Yes,
no, Damon actually moved completely out of the way in 4. So now Coulthard does not have a car between him and Michael Schumacher, and that's always the danger, because if you get held up by the back markers, it's always easier to be the second man and have a stab. You can see it unfolding better, and well, Schumacher lives again for that second place.
David Coulthard is boxed up behind Rubens Barrichello, and he's not going to get past the steward before Michael Schumacher is on him. Mika Häkkinen on his 63rd lap out of 65, and Michael Schumacher is going for the difference between second place and third place, which is 2 World Championship points.
Coulthard through, Coulthard up the inside of Barrichello. So now Michael's got the work to do again. So Coulthard, crucial move there, and look, puts air between him very, very quickly. And I think that could be the key move to maintain that second place. Remember, they finished Häkkinen, Coulthard, Michael Schumacher here in a 1-2-3 last year, and that's the way it's shaping up now as we go into the closing stages.
And compliments to Jarno Trulli. He is still in 6th position ahead of the white steward and Rubens Barrichello. First man not to score a World Championship point at the present moment. Lap 64, last but one. Häkkinen leads. He's got a secure 9-second cushion over David Coulthard. The question is, can Michael Schumacher, through inside Rubens Barrichello. Can Michael Schumacher close that gap? I don't think he can, never mind get past David Coulthard. And Damon Hill is going past Barrichello up into 7th position.
Yes, good. Damon Hill really seizing his opportunity well there, and he doesn't always get the credit for being a tough racer, Damon, but that was a very, very nice move around the outside, while Barrichello was slightly off balance with Michael Schumacher going through.
Yeah, but Damon Hill is now a couple of seconds behind Jarno Trulli, and we're just waiting for Mika Häkkinen to come through and start his 65th and last lap in the Spanish Grand Prix to make it 2 in succession. He won last year. It would be his second victory of 1999, having won in Brazil. Here he is, starting his last lap, and he should be 9 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, maybe more now that Coulthard has had the traffic to get through. No, it's marginally less, 8.9 seconds. So Mika Häkkinen has driven a copybook race. He started from pole position. There is Jarno Trulli, or there was Jarno Trulli, who is between Michael Michael Schumacher's Ferrari there, and David Coulthard's silver and black McLaren, which is in second place, and looking good for those vital 6 World Championship points. It looks like a maximum 16 World Championship Constructors points for McLaren, their first of 1999.
Yes, and well, other than Michael Schumacher's brilliant drive, quite clearly the McLarens have been the better car through the race. We saw the Ferraris having an advantage in Monaco, but if it stays like this, Schumacher's lead over Häkkinen will be just 6 World Championship points.
Yeah, but I think Ferrari, as I said before, are not going to be too unhappy in view of the fact that they've made no bones about the fact that this is their worst circuit of the year. So Mika Häkkinen on his last lap, as Schumacher is still behind Jarno Trulli in 6th position, almost a full lap ahead of him on the track, but behind him right here as Mika Häkkinen comes through to win in Spain and pulls... Hello? What's going on? Stopping as he crosses the line. David Coulthard finishes 6.2 seconds behind him in 2nd position, and Michael Schumacher gets 4 World Championship points for Ferrari. Eddie Irvine will come through to finish in 4th position and take 3 World Championship points. So, superb for McLaren. They'll be very, very, very happy. Their first and second of 1999, 16 constructors' points. Ferrari, as I say, not too unhappy. And hats off, incidentally, again to Jacques Villeneuve and BAR for their fine form early in the race.
Well, some minute further down the road, Ralf Schumacher will come across the line for a solid 2 points there in the Williams, and Jarno Trulli, a further 14 seconds behind him, will take the final World Championship point.
Which means to say that Michael Schumacher is 6 points ahead of Mika Häkkinen. Eddie Irvine in 3rd position in the World Championship has been passed by the Finn, Mika Häkkinen. Irvine 3 points now behind Häkkinen in 3rd position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 4th place ahead of David Coulthard, who has moved up from 7th before the Spanish Grand Prix, and Ralf Schumacher, an excellent 6th position, albeit with just 9 World Championship points. So, Michael Schumacher still leads the World Championship as we go to the next Grand Prix in Canada and Montreal on June the 13th in 2 weeks' time. And the Ferrari should perform better there in comparison with the McLarens than they did here. But all credit to McLaren and Woking. It looks as though they've overcome their reliability problems, which had affected them so badly before this race. Only 3 finishes in 8 starts. And in the Constructors' Championship, it means that Ferrari are now on 41 points compared with McLaren's 36, which, if my mental correct arithmetic is right, is 15 points difference. And when this race started, there was 24 points difference. So, as I said, not too bad for Ferrari under the circumstances. 51 points for them. Jordan is still 3rd ahead of Williams, and that's a great achievement for Eddie Jordan's team. But again, the results of the Spanish Grand Prix, another win for Mika Häkkinen, an 11th career win from his 15th pole position. David Coulthard 2nd, just 6 seconds behind him. Michael Schumacher 11 seconds to the nearest 10th behind Mika Häkkinen, in 3rd position with Eddie Irvine 4th. So it's McLaren, Ferrari. Williams is the first non-Ferrari or McLaren car to finish, driven by Ralf Schumacher in 5th place, as Erja Häkkinen, Mika's wife, waits to greet her winning husband home. Jarno Trulli, a second 1999 point for the Prost team. Damon Hill just misses a World Championship point in 7th position. 8th is Rubens Barrichello. 9th Salo, 10th Fisichella, and 11th his teammate Wurz in Benetton. Pedro de la Rosa for Spain finishes with Tora Takagi 13th and De La Rosa 12th, both arrows home. And just 13 out of the 22 starters finished the race. And there is David Coulthard. I don't know how David will feel after this race, to be quite honest. 6 points, 2nd place is great, but he's been beaten by the man he probably wanted to beat most of all, Mika Häkkinen.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll be pleased that he fended off the charging Michael Schumacher. I think it'll be a bit of a a bittersweet second place in that respect. McLaren now 118 wins in their history, as opposed to Ferrari's 122 wins. So a good close race there for the winningest team. Michael Schumacher, as ever, has got his brain into gear, and he's having a little look around the tyres of the McLaren so he can see how they compare with his and how their balance would have been in the race, and try to understand why he couldn't match them on raw speed for the entire distance. Of course, he got the fastest lap of the race in the mid part when his car was clearly working a lot better. But Michael, it's not often he'll get chance. Only in Parc Fermé would Michael get chance to have a good poke around that McLaren and see what he can learn.
And then, in the background, the McLaren designer.
Yeah, little brother Ralph pops in to have a look as well, and Michael's shrugging his shoulders and saying, you know, look, they went off at the beginning of the race. I got tucked up behind Villeneuve. It was over then. I had a good go, but I couldn't quite make the difference. And Hakkinen coming in for, as you say, Murray, his 11th Grand Prix victory.
I know we keep on saying that if is Formula One backwards, but if Schumacher hadn't been boxed up behind Jacques Villeneuve, think he could have done better?
Yeah, I do, actually. I don't think he was that much quicker than Villeneuve, but he certainly in clear air would have gone fast and wouldn't. I mean, he was at one point 27, 28 seconds down on the McLarens and finished just 10 seconds down. So clearly he had more potential than he was able to show in those early stages. What caught him out was Irvine's poor start, getting boxed in between Irvine and Coulthard, and really it starts on Saturday afternoon, as always, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Poor qualifying position, second row of the grid, and then it all starts to go wrong from there. So
the most important hour of any race is 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock on Saturday, and the race is held on Sunday. 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock on Saturday, because that's the qualifying hour. Well, Mika Hakkinen not looking ecstatic, but must be very, very happy, if for no other reason, and heaven knows I can't think of a better reason than having won the race, but that he won it convincingly with no reliability problems. That must be an awful problem removed from the McLaren equation, with both cars finishing first and second.
Yeah, I think there'll be a sigh of relief there. I mean, especially after Coulthard's suspension failure on during practice, but Michael still managing a smile. We understand Adrian Newey, the technical director of the McLaren Mercedes-Benz team, will go up to receive the Constructors' Award.
Just to match your statistics, Martin, with one of my own, this is Michael Schumacher's 69th podium position in 122 races, which means to say he's been on the podium for more than half the races he started in. A quite incredible achievement. Incidentally, the winning trophy is going to be given to Mika Hakkinen by King Juan Carlos of Spain. What did he say anything to you after you'd taken him round today? Well done, Martin. Or?
He was ecstatic. He really loved it. We had a bit of a go, and I'm very impressed that he had the bottle to get in that Formula One car. I mean, Eric Cantona was supposed to be in it yesterday and did a no-show at the last minute, but King Juan Carlos of Spain very much jumped in the car and enjoyed his ride around the circuit.
And Mika Hakkinen enjoyed his ride around the circuit today, as did David Coulthard. There's Aya. She's always there to see her man in the garage and on the podium. And once again, he's on the top step here in Spain as the Finnish national anthem rings out for Mika Hakkinen. Familiar sound these days, as is the British national anthem for the McLaren team, the winning constructor. the spoils from His Majesty King Juan Carlos, the King of Spain, a magnificent trophy. And Adrian Newey is standing by to receive the winning Constructors' Trophy from Juan Antonio Samaranch, the President of the International Olympic Committee. You don't see him, I can see him.
President of the IOC.
None of the three drivers look particularly thrilled, do they? I mean, there's a lot of shoulders being shrugged and sort of, oh, well, it was tough for me. But this is a tough racetrack, I have to say. You feel pretty beat up when you get to the end of the race. But I think they've all had a fairly mentally and physically demanding afternoon.
Did you have a good day in the office, dear? Hakkinen will be saying, yes, I did. He said a very successful day in the office. Michael Schumacher, not unhappy with that third trophy, which he's received from Carlos Garcia, who is the president of the FEA, the Automobile Club of Spain. So, a good race, an interesting one, a great one for McLaren, a not unsatisfactory one for Ferrari. The Constructors and the Drivers' Championship leaders remain the same as they were before, as the champagne is sprayed and we get ready to go to Canada in 2 weeks' time.
Indeed we do. Thank you very much indeed, Murray, and our thanks to Martin as well. Just a couple of little points. We'd have liked to have seen a few of those overtaking manoeuvres at the end. As much as you would have done back home, we get the pictures that we're given. It's been a touch of deja vu, really, in Spain, a bit like '98, Hakkinen winning from pole, and the McLaren 1-2. David Coulthard savouring the champagne following the world champion home once again. We're going to be back with interviews, Tony Jardine's views, and the answer to our Damon Hill Championship helmet competition. See you shortly.
David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher ara strana giro al ruolo da presa a questa zona da British, varcando anche sta zona già a fuori di vista, lui con il
Welcome, gentlemen, the first three in the Spanish Grand Prix, Mika Hakkinen, David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher. Mika, the perfect lights to flag victory. It looked very easy. Was it?
Oh yeah, it was so easy. You can't believe it. No, it wasn't. Obviously, I guess it's never easy. Sometimes it does look like it is. Easy, but you need enormous concentration all the way through the race, particularly when you lead. And I had quite a big advantage for David and Michael all the time through the race. So it was hard to maintain the maximum concentration all the way. I have to be careful with the back markers and oil on the track sometimes. Like I had in situation in Monaco, I went wide because the oil on the track lost place because of that. So things like that can happen through the race. And when you lead, you have to like put a double concentration because you just have to. And otherwise, it was a fantastic race.
How close were you to driving the car at 100%?
Always at 100%.
In speed?
Also.
Thanks, Mika. David, a great start for you, put you into second place, and you were very happily following Mika behind. But in the middle section, you seemed to lose a bit of pace. Was there a problem then?
I just didn't seem to. I called in on my first set that I was starting to get a bit of oversteer, and we made a pressure adjustment for the second set. And unfortunately, it gave me understeer in the high speed and still the oversteer in the lower speed. So I had, actually made the problem slightly worse. So it made it very difficult for me to try and push. And obviously, I could see that Michael was catching, and it just seemed to have quite a lot of traffic again today. Yeah, every time you get behind some cars, you lose at least a second on that lap. So that helped Michael catch up. And obviously, I had already made it a little difficult for myself by running a little bit long in my pit stop. But nonetheless, we were able to get out in front of Michael, and the balance was much better with another adjustment on the last set.
You mentioned the traffic. You had no problems like you had in Imola, though?
No, nowhere near as bad. I did spend over a lap behind Damon, which I was just starting to get a bit frustrated, thinking that he should know better when he moved over. It's not really what the agreement we have between all the drivers, but I guess he was in a battle with someone else. But nonetheless, Michael was able to catch up towards the end, and that doesn't make it very comfortable.
Thank you, David. Michael, you won Monaco in the first 50 yards, and in a way, you probably lost a chance of victory in the first 50 yards here. What happened at the start?
Actually, it took off quite well, but then I was blocked between Eddie and David. I couldn't go anywhere. I actually had to brake, not to drive into them. They gave Villeneuve the chance to pass me, and that was it, really. I was stuck behind Villeneuve. I could have catched him right in the first lap in turn 5, but it would have meant a lot of risk. And I rather thought, don't do it and wait till later stage. And then the race was very interesting because I fall back about 15 seconds or something like that to David and catched up until the second pit stop. But unfortunately, it came just in when I think one of the Aeros driver came in at the same time, and he took a very slow entry to the pits, and that cost me for sure the necessary time I lost an out against David. But nevertheless, we got a good race, and we got 4 points, and that is useful.
At the end of the race in Parc Ferme, you spent a long time looking at the back of the McLaren cars. What were you looking for?
How beautiful it is, absolutely. I'm not surprised.
Obviously, these guys are having a good car, and you want to watch whether you see anything interesting, and we always see something interesting.
Was it nothing to do with the fact that they were on the hard tyres and you were on the soft?
I knew about that anyway. I don't need to look for that. All the press told me after qualifying, so no, I'm looking at other details.
Thank you, Michael. Mika, you're now just 6 points behind Michael, and the circus moves on to Canada, a circuit which, of course, is a temporary circuit like Melbourne.